All right, we're live. Let's see what happens. Nothing. It's all good.
All right.
We win.
Yay.
Okay, is there anything we took over today besides the examples?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay, who wants to read first? Oh, who wants to be recorder?
I've got it.
Thank you. I don't know if I would be able to figure that one out.
Well, I can't figure out the Hangout on Air thing, so I'll just stick to being the recorder.
Score. Should I read first?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so Jim needs a basement dug. He goes to Cash Corner and finds Bob there with his backhoe. Jim promises to give Bob 25,000 after his basement is dug. Bob agrees and goes to work right away. So that's the bilateral contract part. The following day, Jim needs a second basement dug, but sadly, Bob's backhoe has gone missing. Bob spends the day putting up posters indicating he will pay a reward to whoever brings him the missing backhoe. Uh, the reward poster is the example of the unilateral.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's a good example. I saw that, like when I was looking up different examples, that was a pretty common one. Because I guess they said they're not very common, like unilateral contracts, and so it's like it usually has to do with that's like the main one where like people put up posters.
I think it's almost impossible because even if you just have the basic agreement that sometime I'll do this for you, and if you happen to, I'll pay you. Once it happens, then it becomes bilateral.
Yeah, that's I was like I think most people want to have also like a promise that if you are going to do something you're going to get paid, or
Yeah,
that you have an agreement, make sure that they agree to it too. So, but yeah, like that's a one where I guess like you're putting up the poster and it leaves it open to anyone who does what you want. So
so I don't know when else you'd have a contract where you don't really care if someone follows through or not.
Yeah, that one's interesting.
I think, and then the other option I think that is kind of similar to what we did with the. Let's see, let me pull up my email. Oh, okay, so yeah, yours was. I think we all did a little bit different ones. They're all three different types, but I think they all meet the unilateral because he didn't have a promise, right? On Cody, he just immediately started working on it.
Yeah.
And then on mine, I just did where his friend dares him to do something and promises to pay him, kind of like a bet.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the ghost pepper.
Yeah, I've never had one.
Yeah,
Guess
me neither.
I don't know if it's worth $200. Probably not. probably take two.
I think that's a good one too.
Did we need to do an example of both, or is one good enough?
I don't know. I mean, we're supposed to show the difference, but I don't know if you have to have both in there to show that they're different or to show that, I don't know. If you have it maybe in your quiz question, if that's good enough.
Yeah, I think like if you like make a question that makes you um, be able to know the difference between the two of them, maybe that's like the
This
question.
sounds good to me.
Because it seemed like a lot of the questions on the sample questions that he had, and they were like kind of like that, where you'd have to know the difference between the two of them based on the question.
Right.
Yeah, mine only had the one.
Yeah, I think mine only had one too.
Which is fine. So who do we want to work with? Mine feels all wordy and complicated now compared to your guys.
Well,
I think the car one's good. It's pretty, it's not too long. I think.
I'm good with that. What do you think, Tanisha?
I'm good with any of them. Whatever you guys think. If we want to have both scenarios, then we can use yours and have both of them in there, or if we just want to stick with one and then make the quiz question work around it, that's fine too.
I think that like as long as the question makes you be able to know the difference, and then in the explanation explain the difference, because it seemed like a lot of the other questions that other people did on the quiz and stuff were kind of like that. So I don't think it's like you have to do both scenarios. I mean, I think you could, but I don't think you have to. But I
Um,
mean, either of them or all of ours, I think you could probably add something to it if you wanted to make it turn into something. That's
I think if we wanted to just stick with like just the one scenario, you have a lot of your stuff already done, Glenn, like good quiz questions and like feedback for how.
yeah. I tried to do as much of the form, like fill out the form stuff, as, but the only thing I didn't do was do an explanation. So
Yeah. So if we want to do one more like that, we can totally use that one because ours are pretty similar.
yeah, and I was also thinking of how I would be able to change it to include the other one, or to know like from it to change from unilateral to bilateral.
The,
Um, on on
the
my
idea with kind of the dare is kind of interesting because that that is a little bit open-ended. Like, does he have to complete the dare right now, or can he do it like after lunch, kind of?
right,
Yeah.
or he can say that like you can add he wants um, for him to, or yeah, I don't know, that wouldn't work. I was thinking he could say he wanted to promise to, but that doesn't make sense. Like he wants a promise that he's gonna complete it, or to get paid, I guess. I don't know. Or he promises to do it. I don't know. That doesn't really work though, because that's
No.
what you said, right? Like it changes into a bilateral when the other person makes a promise, or they come to an agreement.
Yeah. I don't have my book right next to me. It's downstairs, but they had the example of what, mowing the lawn? Was that the unilateral
Yep.
contract that they had the example of? Which is weird because that one stayed unilateral until, or they gave like an exception of like if this happened, then it would become bilateral. But right now it's still unilateral. unilateral. So I
Yeah,
don't.
so if Buddy grabbed his lawnmower and started mowing right away, then it would have been bilateral. But because it was left open, as you can come by sometime one day and maybe mow my lawn, that's what made it unilateral. But
Yeah, when you get the other person to make the agreement, also like saying, okay,
What if they didn't say anything? What if they just started doing it? Then is it unilateral still? Because
so yeah, if they don't say anything and they just keep doing it, then they're just going off what the first person said. That it's kind of like he said, it's open ended where there's not an agreement, like a set time, or like you need to, if we agree to this, you need to promise to be here at this time, and you need to do it by this day, kind of stuff like that. Instead of just saying, I'll pay you $20 if you mow my lawn, and you never hear anything back, and then he just comes in and mows your lawn, and it's like unilateral still.
oh, okay. But if you promise to mow the lawn like tomorrow, then it becomes bilateral because you made.
Right. Yeah, if you like make an agreement back requiring him some, you know, to the agreement of a certain like time, or yeah, I guess it's when you both come to a certain agreement on your own terms. Like I guess it's I forget what the definition was that was in the book. It's like a promise of promises or something. Promise on a promise.
Yeah, an act, or yeah, a promise with a promise, and a unilateral is a promise and an act.
Yeah. So I like it's the easiest to understand is like for me it was like with the flyer thing where if someone puts out something like you know I'm offering this much, like I read like a news article about a lady that said that she would offer $1,000 to someone who can prove that the new light rail system in their city would improve like the pollution and stuff. And the news article was about like if she would be liable still if someone did find the the solution. But I guess also with like a unilateral, you can like cancel the contract anytime before it happens. Like one example I saw was if you say, if you cross that bridge, I'll pay you $300, and then if the person just starts crossing the bridge, and that you can cancel at any time, like before they cross the bridge, and there wasn't a contract.
Hmm.
But if they had made an agreement without him just going and doing it, then it would have been a bilateral.
Interesting. Okay.
But I think there's uncommon, so that's why it's kind of like hard to grasp. Because most people when they make a contract, they both have things they want or what's required, and they agree to things without leaving it open ended on one side.
Yeah.
But I think as like I think if the questions are okay, and then the answers will kind of like make you know the difference between the two of them too. That's I think what I'd try to do on mine, where I mixed up the definitions to where you would have to know
Yeah.
the difference between the two based on the answer.
and you've got really good explanations here, Glenn. I
Yeah.
think I'm with Tunisia. I say we use your example.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good too.
It's straightforward. You can totally see that happening kind of in real life, and you had great explanations on your possible answer choices.
Okay, that works.
Really
We
well.
need to do like a general explanation of which wouldn't be hard. It's kind of like with the first answer explanation or the feedback kind of explains.
Yeah, it lays it all out.
Okay, so here's ours. Sorry, I have like too many tabs to keep track of. Okay, here's my. Okay. So The example, we don't need to change anything. Okay, so you said you didn't have an explanation of our example, right?
No, I didn't do. I just did the question, and I just did the explanations for the answers.
Okay.
On the explanation, you could probably use the answer feedback on the first one. It kind of explains the reasoning. Maybe just add more detail to it.
You said the answer to the correct answer feedback?
Yeah, for the correct answer feedback, it explains, that the unilateral contract's made, one party makes a promise to the other party to complete an act. Mark made a promise to pay Sam if he doesn't, or if he does the action of fighting the pepper. We could maybe just add.
Just steal the first sentence from wrong answer number 1 and tack it on to the correct answer.
Okay, wrong
I
answer
think
1. A bilateral contract is made when both parties make a promise to fulfill their obligation.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
make that part of the explanation for the example.
Yeah.
If you combine those two explanations, the first sentence with the correct answer feedback,
Okay.
that'd be a good explanation. Just
Okay.
add the.
Okay, so this is what I have. A unilateral contract is made when one party makes a promise for the other party to complete an act. A bilateral contract is when both parties make a promise to fulfill their obligation. Leave it at that, or put Mark. We also add Mark made a promise to pay Sam if he does the action of biting the pepper. That's probably fine. Leave all of it.
Yeah, I think it's good.
You can, or maybe you can say, Mark and Sam entered a unilateral contract. Because Mark made a promise to pay Sam if he doesn't, or a promise to pay Sam if he does the action of buying the pepper.
Mark made a promise to Sam, right?
Yeah, Mark promised to Sam he would pay him $200 if he ate or took a bite of the pepper.
Okay. So I have those first two sentences, and then I have Mark and Sam created a unilateral contract because Mark made a promise to Sam to pay him if he did the action of taking a bite of the pepper.
Yeah, but I guess I don't know if that'd be good because the question that I asked was, what type of contract describes their offer if he does do it, like if he is able to eat the pepper. So it's like in the question itself, like the explanation, it doesn't say that they entered in the contract yet, but then in my question it says that if he does eat it, then that would make it a unilateral contract because his action of eating it.
So
Contract.
what if in the explanation we just add that I lost it.
If Mark
Sam is under no obligation to bite the pepper, but that Mark is under obligation to pay if Sam chooses to. So that's the formation of the unilateral.
Yeah, so the contract isn't entered into until Sam completes the act of biting the pepper. Kind of like the example I gave with the shipment on a unilateral contract.
So take out that last sentence and put what David said?
Yeah. Well, I think like Mark is technically not under contract either until like they made an agreement, or there hasn't even really been an agreement yet, but they.
I think that's the whole point of the unilateral is that it's one-sided, isn't it? The contract's been thrown out there. I'll pay you the $200, but
Right.
It doesn't become binding or bilateral until Buddy bites the pepper.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
There's that transition, which is weird.
Yeah. I guess they propose the contract and it's not enforceable. Like they don't enter into a binding contract till he actually does the act of biting the pepper. So like with the lawnmower guy, they don't actually have a contract until he actually does the action. Or
So,
like,
I think they have a unilateral contract. I think if you say, I'll pay you to do this, I think that in itself is unilateral. That's where the whole mowing the lawn thing comes in, right? Whereas someone actually shows up to mow the lawn, then it becomes bilateral. Am I misunderstanding?
I don't know.
I think it stays unilateral if they do the act without saying anything. Like
Yeah.
the shipment, like to give that exact example of when you order product on a unilateral agreement, there's no contract until the product actually has been delivered.
Oh.
Oh, that's how I understood it, but I could be wrong.
I don't know.
Well, if you're ordering product on a unilateral, then you would have no expectations of when a product might actually show up, right?
Right. Yeah, so that's why they said it's like not really common. People want to know, you know, they don't just want it to be left out in the open like you would with like leaving a poster up for anyone to just do it. Like if you need a product and someone, or if you had discussed it and then they just do it without any other agreements from the other side or them agreeing to it or them promising to deliver it and they just do the act. So there's no promise from the other person that they agreed to actually deliver it. So he wouldn't be held if he never delivered it. He wouldn't be responsible or liable because it was just one-sided.
But aren't you still liable if you have like meeting of the minds, even if you don't say it? If your actions just
If there was, yeah, if you,
contract?
I think you have to like make it known though. Like I think you just can't assume because you don't know what the other person thinks if they don't say anything.
Yeah. But if they just go start working on it and they don't say anything, would that still be unilateral because it's binding, but they didn't say anything, but their actions show that they agreed to the terms?
Yeah, that's how I understood it.
Okay. So
But
it stays
if they,
unilateral as long as they do it, and it becomes bilateral if they were to say like, okay, I promise to do that tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Then it's a
yeah,
two-way.
that becomes a bilateral with if they make an agreement or promise something back. But
Okay.
I can, I've got the ebook. I can try and pull it up maybe. Because I think one example they gave of like a bilateral was them like agreeing to cook them food or something or like them lunch if they cleaned or did the dishes or cleaned or something. Okay, so it says a unilateral contract involves a promise by one party and an act by the other if, however, the person receiving the offer promises to act before doing so, the contract may become bilateral. And then,
Act first for it to stay unilateral.
yeah, so it says an example of a unilateral contract would be the homeowner offers a man $25 to mow her lawn. This is an offer to make a unilateral contract. The offer is a promise to pay $25 in exchange for the performance of an act mowing the lawn.
So Mark and Sam could have created a unilateral contract as long as Sam doesn't say like, "Yeah, I'll do it after lunch," or
Yeah,
then it's unilateral.
yeah. If he agrees to like yeah, if they're offering the money for the act, and then he just does the act, then that's unilateral. If he makes an agreement saying that he will come at a certain time, then it makes it bilateral.
Okay.
So another common version of unilateral contracts is insurance. And not to throw confusion, but that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Well,
The
because,
insurance companies promises to buy you a new house if it burns down, but if it never burns down, they never have to pay.
well, and your action is paying them. Their promise is to wait, right?
Yeah, I don't. I'm not sure how.
There's only action really on one side, and they're discounting the fact that we make like a monthly premium or payout, but
So we're promising to pay them based on the action that they would be able to pay for.
they're just we're leaving our little bits out. When you sign the contract with them, it's essentially just that they promise to cover you in the event of catastrophe.
The promise based on the action.
Yeah, it's a one-sided promise.
But that doesn't make it bilateral when they promise you back. If they promise to take care of you if there was an accident, that doesn't make it bilateral.
They want their little strip end, but the contract itself is generally one-sided. Right? They can't refuse you coverage if the event happens.
But the contract makes them promise something back to, because you promise to pay them and then they promise to take care of it. So I don't know.
I've just been going through a few here, and people keep saying that in business, essentially, insurance is the unilateral contract. I don't think that they take into account the payments that we make to the insurance company, and they've made the promise to cover your house.
I guess it would probably be more in the details of the contract. Like you were saying, like maybe in the agreements if it doesn't say you're going to pay a certain amount or something.
I think the idea is that they're not obligated to pay out unless the event happens. Right, like on the reward poster, unless the dog is found, unless your house burns down, there's no further action. They've just made a promise. We'll do it in the event of.
Yeah.
Well, if it's muddying the water, let's forget I said it.
Well, I think it would. I don't know if it's muddying the water, but it makes it seem like it's kind of makes the other examples not true, but I don't know. Or it maybe means that we're like, I'm interpreting it wrong or something. But because like with the flyer and stuff, like it's open to anyone to do the act. Like when you put out a flyer, anyone can meet that need. There's not a contract on anyone or anyone that agreed to find it for you.
Right. I think they're just trying to look for something that's open-ended. The insurance company doesn't pay us tomorrow, so we have the money sitting in the bank in case the house burns down. It's just whenever, if ever it happens, then they gotta fulfill that end.
Okay. So on the question, did you just want to, is there anything you want to add to it, or?
Okay, so this is what I have. I have the example. For the explanation of the example, I just left it. Do we want to change that last sentence still? Mark and Sam created a unilateral contract because Mark made a promise to Sam to pay him if he did the action of taking a bite of the pepper.
I think it's good. It shows just one side's made the promise.
Okay. Okay, and then quiz question. What type of contract describes Mark's offer to Sam if he's able to eat the pepper? Correct answer, unilateral, a promise by one party and an act by the other. Correct answer, feedback. A unilateral contract is made when one party makes a promise for the other party to complete an act. Mark made a promise to pay Sam if he does the action of biting the pepper. We can leave that, right? Okay. Wrong answer 1, bilateral, a promise made by one party and an act by the other. The feedback, a bilateral contract is made when both parties make a promise to fulfill their obligation. Only Mark made a promise to Sam. That sounds good to me. Do we need to add anything else?
Works for me.
Okay, wrong answer 2, bilateral, based on an exchange of promises. Wrong answer 2, feedback. Mark made a promise to pay Sam once he completed the act of eating the pepper. Sam did not promise to bite the pepper. Okay, I think that's fine. Is everyone good with that?
Yep.
Okay. Wrong answer 3, unilateral, based on an exchange of promises. A unilateral contract is when one of the parties promises something for an action of the other. Mark is not in a contract with Sam until he takes a bite of the pepper.
Yeah, so that might be, that's where we're talking about, if that's correct on it.
So
They might actually be in a contract, but it might not be binding, or
a unilateral contract.
unless he,
Well, it's binding on Mark, but not on Sam. Or
but it's not, it's, if he doesn't bite the pepper, then Mark's still not required to pay him.
would he be required to pay him until he takes back the contract and says, "Hey, you know what? I'm not into that anymore"? Is that like crossing the bridge? Like 2 weeks later, could Sam take a bite of the pepper and be like, "Okay, give me your $200"?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think Mark's in it until he rescinds.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's a good point.
What if we just took that part out and then just say, if Sam promises to take a bite of the pepper, whatever, at a future time or whatever, then it will become bilateral, and just explain how it's unilateral because of the promise and the action. But if it's a promise,
I also think that Mark would be able to cancel any time before Sam bites the pepper.
Yeah.
So I think that's how it makes it one side. He made the offer of the money, and he has the ability to cancel any time before he actually does the act.
Unless it becomes a bilateral contract, right?
Right, and then if Sam then promises to buy the pepper for $200, then it's bilateral because they both agreed to it, and he promised to eat it for the $200.
And then they're both in it unless they both decide on equal terms that they don't do it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I think feedback is pretty good. We got Sam did not promise to bite the pepper, so we show that he did not enter bilateral.
Yeah, you can maybe say Mark is not in a bilateral contract with Sam, or no, that wouldn't be correct. He is not in a unilateral contract with Sam until he takes a bite of the pepper. No, that wouldn't be good. I don't know. That's what we're debating about too. If there's actually a contract that exists because he made the offer or not.
What if we just put, okay, so a unilateral contract is when one of the parties promises something for an action of the other. If Sam promises to bite the pepper, then it becomes a bilateral contract, which is an exchange of promises or something like that.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. I totally just forgot what I said at the beginning. Okay.
If Sam promises.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I just put, if Sam promises to take a bite of the pepper, it will become a bilateral contract, which is an exchange of promises.
Yeah, that works.
Good.
Okay. I think we're good with everything else, right?
I think so.
Cool. I'll just grab the link after you post it on the page then, and then we'll be good to go.
Sounds good. I'll get it posted right away.
Cool.
Good job, guys. Thank you. We had a rough start.
Yeah.
Glad we got it figured out though.
Yeah. All right. We'll see y'all next week.
Okay.
Okay. Bye, guys.
See ya.